Hi, everybody. Welcome to Best Whole New World. And on Opening the Pathway to Your Guidance, we are talking about awakening your power to heal. And today's topic is really a paradigm shift, because that's what it's all about. We're just going to shift your consciousness right into a whole new world. And Brighid Murphy, Shamanic Healer, is going to kick it off.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jacqueline. It's so good to be here. I talk a lot about healing. And most of the conversations that I have about healing are outside of the reality that we grew up with around what's possible and what's not possible. What I have had great success with is taking the opportunity to unplug from the modern beliefs around how healing happens. And so I know that we need to create a new paradigm for healing. And by paradigm, a paradigm is another word for a template or a model. So we need a new template or a new model for healing. We need that because, first off, we are capable of so much more than what we've limited ourselves to when it comes to healing. Mental, emotional, all kinds of healing. And number two, we are living in a time where we need to take our own healing. We need to take healing in our own hands. We need to empower ourselves, empower our bodies and our minds as healer, because of what's happening politically, because of how, at least in the US, because of the climate of fear that's happening around people's healing process. So, and even if we in the US weren't in a state of disarray, I would still be saying the same thing. What I find is that this paradigm shift, this creation of a new model or a template, is necessary right now, no matter what. It just happens to be that the climate here really is encouraging us to do it differently. Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about.
That's awesome. And I do think I it was like I just had something just totally push weird, get weird on this side. So yeah, I remember, I don't know if you remember, what was it? Roger Moore? No, he's the 007. Is it the same guy that did Sicko? You know, and he did the thing on the Ford Motor Company and all that. Do you remember him, the director?
Oh, yes. Tip of my tongue.
Yeah, Mike Moore. Yeah, that's it. Not Roger Moore. Roger Moore was 007. Okay, yeah, no. And that really, I think, is, for me, the paradigm shift that people need to recognize, that healthcare, or what we believe is the healthcare system that has been traditionally in North America, because I think Europe has already more embraced homeopathics. They didn't outlaw it sort of as we did over here in North America in you know, I don't know, 60, 70 years ago. Mm-hmm. We sort of took that away from the system. And we made that a healthcare system, but that was really a sick care system. You know, like in Britain, the doctors get paid to keep people healthy. Whereas yes, right? I was talking to my dad and I was like, so Dad, you know, when you go in and then the doctor says to him, and he's perfectly healthy, but the doctor's always looking for something wrong with you, right? Like, I mean, that's their job, really. That's how they get paid. And so the whole system itself needs to shift.
You know, it really does. And that reminds me that when I work with folks who are looking to heal something, and we focus on a healing process, the last thing I want to know from them is what's wrong with them. The first thing I want to know is what's right with you, what makes you feel alive, and where do you want to go in this lifetime? Where do you want to be? What do you want in your life? Because when we allow those things to drive the bus, the things that are in the way, and if illness or dis-ease is in the way of that, it's going to clear and shift, and we're going to adjust a lot easier when we focus on the wellness. I cannot say this enough, and I do believe, it may take a while, but I do believe here in North America, the modern medical system will get on the train.
Oh, yeah.
And if they don't get on the train, it will just be turned over in a different way. I have hope for us. I know a lot of people don't. I have hope for us.
I'm right with you, Bridget, and that's why we're doing this, is because, in our paradigm shift, like, do you remember a situation ever as you were growing up? Like, because I grew up going to the doctor. Like, I grew up being vaccinated. I grew up being sick, and I had an incurable, and I was on medication. So I remember all that, and I share that. And I remember when the doctor told me finally what was wrong with me and how the medication was going to help. And I just had to pop a pill a day and everything was going to be great. And I was delighted at that point. I was like, praise God, finally after years, somebody knows something's wrong with me and you're going to fix me. And then after a couple of years of doing this, I started to see and notice my own experience that they were really compiling because I would have to go back every 3-6 months. They were compiling my story with the other people's stories. And they were saying, oh, so that's like that. And that's like that. And I would have to go on drug holidays. And, and I started to realize I don't want to live like this my whole life. Mm-hmm. So I've had that healing, and I've had those experiences. And I think so many other people have had their own experiences of being healed. Mm-hmm. That have helped to shape the culture that we're in, that says it really is in your hands. It really is in how you think. But you have to, when I was sick and looking for an answer to get fixed and taken care of, I was happy. And then when I changed my idea and said, you know what, I want something better, then new answers started to come to me. So I totally agree with you. You have to decide to change the channel, like change your perception, and then see healing in a different way, and new things will show up for you.
Yeah, let's do this differently. Let's make an agreement or let's just think about how else healing could happen. Let's also think about stopping giving away our power when we don't feel well or when we're ill. We need a different template. We need a different model, different paradigm around that, because our systems can be programmed. They are programmed that when we get ill, we drop into fear and make the quickest decision we possibly can because we got to get it started because we're going to die. Mm-hmm. And we need to pull the fear out. And there's it's not an easy thing to do, but just realizing that you can do it differently. Just realizing that if you get a diagnosis or you have a pain or something like that, stop before you react. Stop before you, no, I don't mean, I mean, stop before you make a decision out of haste. We really need to slow it down a little bit. That's I see so many people who get some sort of a diagnosis, particularly when it's cancer, and they are, something shifts in them, the fear takes hold, and they are ready to do whatever the doctor tells them. Right. And I think we need to really change that. We need to be able to have some breathing room and check in and see, what do we really, really, really want to be doing? What's going to be the best for us? I have a client who she was in her late 30s. She got a diagnosis that was some type of blood-related cancer issue. Mm-hmm. And up until she got that diagnosis, everything in her reality was love and light and spread the love. And as soon as she got this diagnosis, something went offline. Her whole being seized up, and she couldn't even see past what the doctors were telling her. And so it was sad because there was a lot of different things that she could be doing. And I don't really want to judge somebody else's healing process or tell them what to do. But I really know that had she not gone into fear, it would have been different. She would have been able to manage her mind and her body differently. So we need to change that. I also think, and I know I'm jumping around, but I always want to talk about a lot of things, that we need to look at, we need to consider that healing doesn't mean curing, and that we can have a healing process happen without curing a situation.
Well, I think the perfect example of that is like when someone cuts themselves. Okay, we're all in agreement that you cut yourself, the cut can heal, and you don't really have to do much to do that. But sometimes you get a scar, so that's still healed, right? It isn't, it isn't perfectly healed in the sense that the scar is not there, right? And your skin is, like the way exactly it was, but it is healed. Yeah. So sometimes that's what's going on in your body. You have been healed of the bigger situation, but there still can be like remnants of what it reminds you of. And that is, I find, sort of a level that you have to help your client through to say, you know what, that's like a memory. It's like an energy. And like for me, I had a history of eczema all my life. So there was a period where as soon as, my skin maybe got a little red, I instantly was going, oh, my eczema was coming back. And then I had to realize, no. I have to reframe that and start to say, oh, you know what, my skin is releasing. And then it finally, there was never a thought about eczema again when something popped up. It was just, it's all okay. It's all healing, right? Yeah. That's the type of stuff you're talking about, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it is all healing, and healing is a process. Healing is a journey, and healing does not mean that we are fixing something that's broken. It means that we are going to go into something and come out changed.
Yeah.
We're going to come out changed. And sometimes that means that the situation completely goes away. Yeah. And sometimes not. Sometimes it means that our lives are changed because of the situation. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I was at a workshop, one of my metaphysics classes a couple of years ago, and the women in the group were talking about a healer who came in and sat everyone in a circle. And the healer looked at everyone and could find these spots in the people's body that was diseased, or find some sort of trauma in the past that was, happened to them. And one by one, she went to everyone and pulled it out, took it out. And I got to one of the other women in the group who does similar work to us. And she said, hold on a minute. I don't want you pulling anything out of me.
Right.
I don't think my life would be the same if somebody took away. Wow. How can I?
Well, it's a part of her that she has to give permission to release, right? Like I will never take something from somebody, and and now in the past I would, yeah. But until they say yes, they want to let it go, and when they're ready to let it go, that's when I find the healing can occur. Because until then, it's still a part of them, in however they want to look at it.
It's so interesting. The whole thing is so interesting. I don't think that you can force someone to heal. No. Healing is a journey, and it's a process. And the whole idea that this woman was sharing, that I'm not doing such a great job of relating, was that she realized later on that she did not want anybody taking her teaching from her, because she viewed illness and dis-ease, and I hyphenate dis and ease, she viewed that as something that helped her to grow. And she didn't want anybody to take that from her. And I think that that is somebody who walks with a different model for healing.
Yeah, well, I just had a mind drop, whatever, just dump, like the Olympics, Winter Olympics was just on. And now that it's finished, they're starting to talk about the Paralympics. Now, there are people that are competing that have lost limbs. Now, in that process of their life, some of them lost their limb and they could easily say, oh my gosh, my life is over, right? Or this particular case. But actually, the healing has been in them discovering that they have a whole new life by using an artificial limb. So I feel the same thing as our idea, we get very attached to what things are supposed to look like, that everything is just supposed to be perfect. Yeah. You know, I was just dealing with a client yesterday and she was having, you know, a lot of stuff coming out through her skin and she wanted it to go away, right? And I sort of said to her, I said, well, when there was anger that she then became present to. And I said, so what if what you're seeing is really the anger getting out of your body? What if it's doing you a favor? Because if you just keep that anger inside, it's going to do something else. So this way, your body's actually trying to release it and help you. How does that make you feel then? And she was like, wow, I'd never thought of it like that. Right? And I said, well, doesn't that make you feel better that your body's actually working for you? And then, you know, that started a whole other process of conversation, that her body was working with her instead of her body working against her.
Yes. And the body is working for us. How does that change things? I would invite anybody, everybody, to think now, tomorrow, the next time you get hurt or have a flu or something. Okay, what if my body was working for me? How would my lens change? I know for me, if my body's working for me, and I firmly believe that it is, I'm going to cheer it on. Yeah. I'm going to do whatever I can to support the process of my body. And that's something that I didn't plan to talk about today, but something I definitely would like to talk about is how to communicate with your body so that you are on board with it and it's on board with you versus being against it. When we're on board with our body, we are less in fear, and we can make, in those crisis moments, we can make a better decision, because if our baseline is, I trust this body, then we're going to make a more empowered choice when it comes to important choices around medications and treatments and diagnoses. Yeah.
And healing it's an ever expanding concept, because we can start with a little thing and like a scar, or you drop something on your toe and you think, okay, I can ignore it, or I can create a healing, or whatever. They can be little things that you put your faith in, you go, okay, that worked. And my personal experience is, you know, like they grow as you tackle, you know, and you believe and you trust. And, you know, I've done a couple different recordings on my November 11th, 2011 opportunity. I say that was my opportunity when my skull crashed the pavement, right? Because for me, it wasn't like I say to everybody, you know, you could have gone to the doctor, you know, you could, but I knew I was between that choice of deciding for myself if I could be healed with the energy and the presence versus rushing off to the hospital. And, you know, and so I've described that whole journey, but that was my personal next, you know, 11, total new beginning of the next level of faith, is even in something like that with a skull, a head injury. Did I have the faith and belief in that I was being healed versus, oh my gosh, you know, I've got a major head trauma going on and
Well, I would say that I think that if that wouldn't have worked if that was the first time you decided to trust your intuition. You wouldn't have been able to go there.
No.
You had a baseline of working with your intuition, knowing that other things were possible, and in understanding natural healing. So you were able to make that decision.
Yeah.
If we do that, if we start now to look at, here's my body, how can I keep it well? How can I boost my immune system? How can I be strong? Then when crisis happens, we're coming from a strong place and not a weak place. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do during these times is to stay strong. I did a thing about that not too long ago. Keep your body strong, your mind, your spirit, whatever it is that's weak in you right now, or you don't feel up to par, make a plan to stoke that area and make it stronger so that you are able to respond versus quick react. When a crisis happens, when a global crisis happens, when a trauma happens to your body or in the community, get yourself centered. This really is, and now I'm going to go on my soapbox, this really is not a time to put off your healing until the future. Oh, you know, when I have the money, I'll join the gym, or when I get this, I'll start exercising and eating right. The time for that is over, everyone. We need to be strong. These times require us to be strong. And when you have a regimen that you follow that makes you strong, you're going to feel a whole heck of a lot better. And you're not going to be able to be shaken in your boots like a lot of people are shaking in their boots right now. So getting strong. Then the other thing I wanted to talk about was this agreement that we have, this paradigm, which is up for shifting, that says that if we are sick, we are going to suffer. We're going to suffer. We need to change that around. We need to change that around. Is there pain when something's off? Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely pain. I am not living in la la land in the white light all the time. I think that doesn't work. So is there pain? Absolutely. Have I been in pain? Yes, a heck of a lot of it. Have I had physical pain? Yes. Have I had mental pain and emotional pain? Oh my God, yes. Sometimes I think if I tell my full story, people will be like, oh my God, she's crazy. Eventually I will. Eventually I'll tell I didn't come to this healing path, just
right. None of us
on a cloud. But if yes, there's pain. Can we alleviate the pain? Yes, we can alleviate the pain. Even chronic situations, chronic pain doesn't mean you have to suffer all the time. And we need to change that agreement about suffering. We really need to do that. When we get our mind and heart well, when our mind is well and our heart is well, we can use that wellness to inform our body. There's something that they share in the Jacqueline Reiki practice that I'm a part of, and that is that your body can be unwell, but your mind can be well. You can still be happy even if your body is not well, which is a revolutionary concept because we're just not raised to think that way.
Well, it's so again, since we're doing a paradigm shift, right? We're just going to say, so we're asking you to try something new on, right? And try something new on first is to say, you know what, when things are happening to you, if they could be happening to your benefit and working to your advantage and towards of healing, then notice what you're noticing is starting to shift. Notice how your perceptions are. Notice, are you still suffering the same way? And a lot of times, like as you said, is your mind can be, and I hear that with people who go, I know I'm perfectly healthy, right? Like, I know I'm perfectly healthy. I feel in my mind that everything is good, but my body still seems to be sharing these symptoms.
Yes.
And that is part of I almost call it like a healing crisis or a detox, in that sense that your body is going through something, and I think it's very egocentric or self-centered of us to believe that it's all about ourselves. Because as we get into this great concept of that you believe in this oneness, we're all a part of this whole picture. So just because it's happening to me doesn't mean it's just happening to me. Sometimes we are part of this greater healing that's going on. And we have to allow ourselves to open up to a much bigger picture, because if we're the ocean and not just the singular drop, then we are impacted by our environment and all the other things around us. So we may be taking on other things unconsciously and unaware, and our body is processing it, and that's how we are helping. I just feel that there's so much we are unaware of in the greater good of humanity and this whole transformation on Earth that our little pea brains can't fathom. We still want to make it all about ourselves.
Healing doesn't occur in a vacuum.
Right.
And one of the most tragic things that happened to us when we stepped away from community is that we took our pain and we take our pain and we individualize it and we keep it all to ourselves. It becomes our job and our job alone to heal ourselves. And in traditional communities where there are traditional healers who are intact members of the community, and people really look at themselves in relationship to their community, healing is easier. Healing is not something that you have to run away with and hide and do on your own. It's something that's brought out into the light and that people support you in. But we lost that. We're running solo. And I really believe that we can bring back community. We are bringing back community. I'm a member of a few communities that are doing just this. So we need to share that. We need to share the healing process and not be so isolated in it. That makes a big difference.
And for those of you that are, under the guidance and direction of a medical practitioner, right? We are, encouraging you to be aware and follow that, like what that guidance is. Like, I mean, our disclaimer is we're sharing our information here, but if you're under treatment or anything like that, like, you continue to follow what you feel is best for yourself and what you're guided to do. There are plenty of medical doctors and practitioners out there that support this whole concept. I mean, as you talk about community, I'm a part of a community still that has a whole group of medical scientific practitioners that validate that spontaneous, so divine healings like occur, that is
Close up. Well, we're still live. She's frozen. I don't know if you guys can see me. Thank you for joining us today on Awakening Your Power to Heal. We've been talking about changing our paradigm or model or template for what's possible with healing. We'll be back again next week, same place, same time, to talk about another aspect of healing and awakening your power to heal. If you are interested, I welcome you to check out my YouTube channel. It's just Brighid Murphy. There's a playlist there that's called 10 Signs That Healing is Happening. They're 3 or 4 minute videos that will give you signs that healing is happening. So you're welcome to hop over there and check that out. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I look forward to seeing you all soon. And thank you, Jacqueline. Bye for now.